Should we start with Kedwin Scott? Seen the statement from the club today says he's out for the foreseeable future. Can you give us any more on that? What does foreseeable future mean?
Yeah, I think that we're looking at a longer term injury than we'd hoped. So I think the reason there's no timescale at the moment is because we need to get through the early stages and see how Kedwin reacts, and then start to make a plan going forward. And we have to hope that there's no bumps in the road with that, and then we'll be able to, I'm sure, give a much better indication of when he'll be back in a few weeks' time, when we've got through some of the really tough stuff at the beginning. So it's not like we're trying to withhold anything. Like, genuinely, we just need to, before we start talking about any sort of time scale, it's best that we're more confident of that.
I mean, there's never a nice time, of course, to get news like that. But having just got up into the league and a few appearances here and there from early on in the season, how's he dealing with this horrible news?
Yeah, of course he's very very disappointed, but we're all going to be here to help him, and the medical team will do a great job to try and help him get physically fit, and also to try and help raise his spirits and be alongside him when he has to do the tough rehabilitation work that can be dull and you can feel excluded. But we'll do our very best to keep him in with the group as much as possible. We have plenty of meetings and strikers meetings and team meetings, so be a part of everything that we're doing in that way. And like I say, the medical team will be with him every step to help push him along, and to be there for him to lean on them as well.
What does it mean for you so close to deadline day?
I think more importantly, I've lost Kedwin from the team at the moment, and that's just a huge blow in itself. But looking at the situation deeper than that, we have Junior Moraes, who has been outside of the squad through no fault of his own at all, purely because of the level of Macaulay and of Kedwin. But he naturally comes into the squad and is a player that we think a huge amount of, and we're delighted to have him with us. And so it's a very very tough moment for all of us because Kedwin is so important. But we have guys that are ready to come and take an opportunity and try and show how good they are. So we have to remember that we do have players in the club that are desperate to perform for us and are completely invested as well.
Speaking of Junior Moraes, I mean, he joined at the back end of last season. I think he had a bit of an injury at the time, and then he's got the summer, and then he's got the start of the season where he's not been involved. What's it been like behind the scenes? Has he been incorporated? Does he feel very much part of it, even though he's not been involved on a match day as very much at least?
Yeah, I mean the only thing that was missing from that, as you quite rightly summed up his period of time with us, was that he got injured on the third day of pre-season and then missed almost the entire pre-season schedule. So that again has meant that he couldn't try and fight for a place in the team or fight for a place on the bench. So that also put him behind that. And again, unfortunately for Junior, it was nothing that he had done. He'd actually had a very good summer in terms of doing his individual work away from the club. He had his holiday, but he worked very very hard, and he was extremely unfortunate to pick up an injury so early on in pre-season. But since then, he's been an absolute delight to work with, because this is such a tough time for him, for any player. It's so difficult when the league has started and everyone's off to a game and you feel like you're not part of it. We try our best to keep the guys included in everything, and we train with them when they're not in the squad. Myself and the staff are there on a match day so that they know that they're never out of our thoughts, and we give them the individual session that we think will help them to get a bit of a buzz and to try to make small gains in their performance and so on. And he's played his part in that immaculately. He's been superb, and and like I say, now I don't have any fears at all about him coming into the squad. Far from it. I'm very confident that, and that is the reason why you have a squad. And it's very difficult convincing players when they're not in it that they have to maintain their levels, and Junior's done that.
Away from the striking positions, then, or maybe even including the striking positions, I don't know. You said last week there might be a player or two coming in, but you were hoping it wouldn't be a sort of late night pizza situation like you've had before. The deadline's getting a little bit closer. Could it end up being a deadline day dealings in the end for Notts or not?
I'm still hoping not, but you never know. And of course we have another. We have more training sessions and a game that we have to come through and what have you. So yeah, I mean we don't know for sure, but I'm really hoping that anything that we do, we avoid that clamour at the last minute.
You feel like you're getting better. Great performance last week. All those chances. Does it feel like week by week? Are you seeing the progress? I mean, I think we are watching it. I just wonder from your point of view and how you analyse it, how you're feeling week by week early on in this season.
I've certainly seen. I mean, look, we made it easy for ourselves to improve from the first one, because anything would have been better. But I thought the second game showed much more determination and spirit that we're more used to seeing. But then still some moments of focus missing, and we allowed a couple of goals that were uncomfortable viewing for us. Against, of course, we played a good team, but then I think that concentration level was much more evident moving on to the Morecambe game. But then we forgot to put our teeth in, and then somewhere much closer to what we're trying to achieve in a Donny game, and then again I would say a step closer. I mean, it's hard on the boys because we lost Kedwin, and I'd made all the subs, so that's tough for them. But I would like them to have seen the game out with a clean sheet. I think at that late stage that it's unnecessary because we can control the game. We don't have to keep playing on the front foot all the time. But it got much more difficult. But certainly I think that was the best performance so far this season. I think that if that's an upward trend, then at some point we either need to realistically need to level out and have a consistent performance that we become used to, that we know that we're going to get as a bare minimum, and then see if we can just push those levels increasingly to get better and better. But if there's a bump in the road and we drastically underperform in one game, then we'll have to address that. But I'm seriously hoping that we can stabilise and become a very competent League Two team.
And just finally, will this weekend be as tough as it's been so far? They've started this season pretty well as well, of course.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, this will be a very tough one for us. They're going to be well drilled. They're going to have they're going to be aggressive and competitive. So we're preparing. We know what to expect, and we have to, like I say, we have to perform at a high level, and we have a chance, I think, then to get a good result and progress, move on. But like I said, we're trying to now desperately guard against any serious downturn in the performance level and any serious dip, because that was a really rough period that we came through. So I'm hoping now that we're out of the woods, and we're expecting a really tough game, but that's absolutely fine as long as we perform to the level that we should do.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Luke. Cheers.
Thank you.
Over to you, Sam.
Hi, Luke.
Hi, Sam.
Are you happy that sort of the goal scoring and goal creation burden has been, well, pretty much quite shared around your team so far this season, and you haven't been overly or heavily reliant on one player so far?
Yeah, I think that's been a great addition this season already. We have a number of players scoring goals. I would like Maka to go goal crazy again and keep everybody chipping in as well. That would be lovely. But I mean, I think it's clear that that Macca is not just about goals. Macca's intensity on the pitch and his constant harassment, his movement, his presence all the time in and around the goal is unquestionable. And so, Macca brings far more to the team than just goals. And we have a number of goal scorers, so as you quite rightly pointed out, there maybe won't be an enormous burden on Macca's shoulders, and I've got no doubt he's gonna score a lot of his own goals as well.
Do you think the system that you play sort of lends itself to that, and it's not just maybe about the personnel as well?
No, I think that whatever system you play, you have to have good players. Otherwise, the system looks terrible, and you're a bad coach when you don't have good players on the pitch, and you're a good coach when you do. I think, in reality, the game is about the players, and I try to give some help by trying to put them in positions that I think will help them to show their top quality, and help them to be able to defend efficiently against any given opposition. But ultimately, it comes down to the quality and the desire of the players to produce on the pitch. And I think, certainly in the last 2 games, we're seeing much more creativity and much more individual flair from the players on the pitch.
Yeah, and you've touched on it already a little bit, but obviously Accrington will be a test of that in terms of their defensive record so far.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been against Aki in League One, and they were absolutely brilliant. And watching them now, I can see that they've retained the same attitude and the principles about how they go about their business. So I've got some insight into how tough it will be, and I need to try to pass that knowledge on to the players and prepare them correctly.
Thank you, Luke.
Thanks very much.
Just a couple from me, Luke.
Yeah.
Kedwin, obviously, he was adept at number 9, but also the role slightly behind there. Do you see Junior as being equally adept in both positions, or do you think he favours one or the other?
I think I would say that he's more a 9, or like I suppose 9.5, but central more. Well, I think that Kedwin could play off to one side behind the 9 and outstanding as a 9. But Junior probably he didn't have many repetitions in that deeper role, because normally in training he will be a 9 with another 9, or he'd be slightly behind in the centre of the pitch. So yeah, I think there's a chance that he can play in the deeper one, but we kind of prioritised him in those central roles.
Fans obviously haven't seen too much of him in the black and white yet. What would you say are his sort of key attributes? Because he's got some different sort of skills and some different sort of physical attributes, hasn't he? Yeah,
I mean, he can generate a lot of power from almost no backlift at all, because he's very well put together, and I think it'd be very, very difficult for opposition players to tussle him off the ball, because he's very powerful and he can look after the ball really well. He's got good experience of that as well, because many times in his career he's been like a target man for people to play off, and probably we would like to get closer to him before we play the ball to him. But I think certainly he'll be difficult for players to get the ball off of him, and he'll be a predator as well in the box. So he has a lot of things that that we really like, and I think it's obvious that in the coming weeks we're going to see him more on the pitch.
And another option you've got there is a certain David McGoldrick. Not a bad option to have, I suppose. He played in that role towards the end of the friendly at Shrewsbury. I remember watching and thinking how impressive he was. Within about 10-15 minutes he caused chaos. Do you see that as a potential option for you as well in Kedwin's absence? Yeah,
absolutely, and we've tried to give David some minutes in that 9 position in training as well. But yeah, I thought the Shrewsbury performance was very, very interesting to see him down the middle as a lone striker in that role. So yeah, we're fortunate with that, and that's another reason I think we don't feel too much panic, because we have still really 3 9s in the building. So I think David has already shown that he can score in the position slightly deeper, but for sure he's comfortable to move up one.
Just to finish with another one on David, first and foremost, what a finish at the weekend, but also we've noticed that he's been used as a bit of a target man at times for you this season. Has he given you an extra dimension, not only with obviously his obvious qualities on the ball, but the diagonal balls, the flick-ons and preoccupying defenders?
Yeah, I think so. I think we always aim to try and be dynamic and hard to play against. If teams jump out too much, we can go direct to David, and in the air he's very strong, and he's got he's willing. He's got no problem with challenging for that long diagonal pass, and he understands the reason behind it. And then of course, if you worry too much and we hit too many long ones, potentially we have more space in the bottom of the pitch to build up. So that's been a really helpful, I think, addition to have that physical presence in the top line to be able to hit the ball longer.
One more actually, Will Randall. What's the latest on him?
Yeah, Will is doing so well, and we got to the problem with Craig Hayden and Jane. They got to the root of the problem, and now we have him really in a strong place, coming back to full training soon, and then once he come back into full training, we can start to assess when he is going to be a realistic option for the team.